This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring a discussion on a difficult road ahead for Pakistan. The participants are Skand Ranjan Tayal, former diplomat, and Nilova Roy Chaudhary, journalist.
Pakistan has been in the throes of an acute political crisis since the opposition parties tabled a motion of no confidence against Imran Khan last month. Khan and some of his advisors chose to bypass this vote of no confidence in the Pakistan National Assembly, which was scheduled on Sunday, April the 3rd, with the Deputy Speaker of the House dramatically rejecting the no confidence motion and plunging the country into further political turmoil until the opposition, which immediately approached the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court constituted a 5-judge bench and opined that the constitutionality, that the Deputy Speaker's actions had been completely unconstitutional, and they unanimously ruled that there must be a trust vote held by the night of Saturday, April 9th, which was held subsequently, and Imran Khan was voted office in that vote. Shehbaz Sharif is now Prime Minister. Please explain what all this kind of really means for Pakistan, and does this mean there will be further political instability?
I really think that there will be further political instability because unfortunately from the very beginning, since the foundation of Pakistan, political instability, changes of regime, army intervention has been part of their polity, and we have seen successive prime ministers and parties taking over. But one thing which remains constant since President Ayub Khan's time is that ultimately no prime minister can rule Pakistan unless it has the full backing of the Pakistan army. And that sentiment or that feeling, perception has again been reinforced by what we saw unfolding, the world saw unfolding in the last few months, last year when Prime Minister Imran Khan tried to have the term of the ISI chief extended, and General Bajwa, the army chief, put his foot down and the Prime Minister had to concede. So the point is that this is a coalition government headed by Shehbaz Sharif with Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz Sharif as the main constituent and Pakistan People's Party and some other parties. And in any coalition we have seen in the subcontinent, there is always instability. The parties come together to oust one leader, but unfortunately later they are not able to work together. And in any case, in Pakistan, elections are due next year because the 5-year term ends in the middle of next year, 23. So all the parties would be maneuvering themselves, will be positioning themselves so that they can improve their score of MPs and members of National Assemblies in the next year's elections. And that means that there will be a conflict for positions, for largesses, for favors, for contracts between the various constituents of the coalition headed by the new Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. So I see more political instability, and the constant would be that no Prime Minister can stay on in power in Pakistan without the blessings of the Pakistan army.
Absolutely. But this time, however, there's one kind of slightly strange thing that I've been noticing. Imran Khan, of course, appears to have bowled himself out of the reckoning. But Khan and his party have asked their supporters to organize all of these nationwide protests in his support. And the strange thing is there have been in those protests direct slogans raised against the army, its role, the ISI, and more specifically General Bajwa himself. Now this is a bit strange, I thought, and I wanted your opinion. Is this something just planted by Imran Khan, or what exactly is this sudden voices raised against the army?
It appears that Imran Khan still retains part of his charisma, and he is trying to shift the responsibility of his failure to achieve the objectives of Naya Pakistan on this old Pakistani establishment. He is not naming the army. but it is very clear by his very oblique statements, as well as Pakistani people also understand that Imran Khan has lost power because he lost favor of General Bajwa. How they will internalize it, how they will react, that is for us to see in the future. But Imran Khan does retain certain amount of popularity. He is trying to go above the head of the army and establishment and appeal directly to the people. And among the pictures which are coming on television, a large number of youngsters are rallying in his support. And we also need to understand that neither Shehbaz Sharif nor Zardaris promise anything new to the people of Pakistan, to the youth of Pakistan, because they have been ruling the country at least for the last 30, 40 years, let us say at least from 1970. If we exclude the period before that, that is a good 50 years. And where is Pakistan? Where have they brought Pakistan? So I don't think among the masses they will have much credibility. They will have their following in Sindh, for instance, for Pakistan People's Party, and in Punjab for the Nawaz Sharif family. But it could be an open question. And Imran Khan could spring a surprise in the political events, political formations, political mobilization in the months which are there before the next election.
So, what you're saying is very, very interesting, because you're suggesting that Imran Khan has not bowled himself out of the reckoning, but more importantly, if he can manage to directly get popular support without the support of the army and get elected, it would be something quite different. But the fact of the matter also is that he has also not tackled the economy at all well. Inflation has been crazy in Pakistan, and the root cause of discontent is the very, very poor state of the economy.
That is very true. The Pakistan GDP has fallen from $315 billion in 2018 to less than $300 billion in now. And there is a lot of, perhaps only on the power front, energy, perhaps there is a little bit of improvement. Otherwise, the people of Pakistan are suffering a lot, and all that blame will go to the Imran Khan administration.
So then, at this point, then what are the wider implications of this kind of instability in the region? The Shehbaz Sharif and the Nawaz Sharif family has owned this Ittifaq group of industries, and they're meant to be industry savvy and meant to be able to manage the economy better. They've also been somewhat more friendly, perhaps, towards the Indian administration. So what do you think would be the implications for, say, India-Pakistan ties at this point?
Internally, both the Sharif family clan and Zardari family and clan, they have faced corruption charges which have some credibility. So that is one thing, that the old establishment is reasserting itself with the old power equations and balance of industry, etc. One. Second, both the parties, as well as in many ways Imran Khan, they always have shared total or friendship with China. So I don't see anything changing in the relations between China and Pakistan, whoever is the ruler of Pakistan. And this is underpinned by the Pakistan army, because even China's investment, CPEC, the Chinese are being protected by a special division of the Pakistan army. So no change in relations between Pakistan and China. Now, United States, of course, I think Imran Khan made some very laughable charges against the United States. And he was just sort of like a drowning person throwing his hands anywhere that something may stick. And he knows that the people of Pakistan, there is a general undercurrent of animosity towards United States. It is there in Pakistan. So he was trying to tap into that, because he could not directly attack the army, because there is a general sympathy towards the army that politicians are totally corrupt and the only credible institution is Pakistani army. So the relations with United States are likely to improve under Prime Minister Shehbaz Khan. And he had been to India in 2013 when he was Chief Minister of Punjab. And he had very good discussions, and there was some optimism that trade ties would be opened between, at that time, of course, the two Punjabs, and between India and Pakistan. And well, things changed, nothing happened. But if we see in the context of some positive statements coming from General Bajwa about relations with India, and also the fact that after the sort of understanding between India and Pakistan, between the two DGMOs, the line of control has been quiet for more than 1 year.
Yeah.
So it is a interesting thought, but if Pakistan army has come to this conclusion that a continued conflict with India, very open, direct, everyday conflict with India is not in the long-term interest of Pakistan's economy or Pakistan's people. And Shehbaz Sharif also has a deep inside him somewhat similar sentiment. Then it can open some doors for the two countries to work together. Because whenever India has tried to extend the hand of friendship towards Pakistan, the army of Pakistan has intervened for the swearing-in of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi went there on his birthday, and as soon as that happened, then Pakistani army makes sure that Nawaz Sharif goes.
Yeah.
So one cannot say anything at this stage, but there are interesting straws in the wind, and we have to watch carefully.
And in this meantime, also you had this very strange, interesting incident of Hafiz Saeed, the mastermind of the Jamaat-ud Dawa and the 26/11 attacks, has been sentenced to 31 years in prison and fined and so on. So on multiple fronts, things seem to be moving in Pakistan, and it's unclear what final kind of shape they would take. I'll ask you to make a one-line kind of prediction on what things will be like in the next few months. What would you say?
This is just to satisfy that they somehow get out of the FATF grey list. I do not think there is any credibility. So one has to see two things. Does the infiltration across the border in Kashmir, does it increase, decrease, remain static? I think our competent agencies will watch that very carefully. And now the tourist season in Kashmir is peak. The Kashmiris are having a bountiful economic revival. There is investments from UAE coming. That there is some pressure on Pakistan army, perhaps from friendly countries like UAE and Saudi Arabia also, that don't get too far, look after your own people and look after your own economy. So in case Kashmir there is no terrorist attack in this season, then it could open the way for a very fruitful and meaningful relationship between India and Pakistan. So we should watch very carefully. And if there is any positive development from Pakistani side, India should respond very positively. But be very careful. And because there is, within deep state, there are elements who will try to nip anything positive in the bud.
Right. So, interesting times ahead. Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador Tayal.
Thank you, Nilova.
You were listening to a discussion on a difficult road ahead for Pakistan. The participants were Skand Ranjan Tayal, former diplomat, and Nilova Roy Chaudhary, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.